Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to another episode of B2B Growth. It is just Logan and myself here today. Logan, how are you?
I'm doing phenomenal this morning, James. How are you, man?
I am fantastic. So if you are new to the show, Logan and I on the weekends, we do these episodes where we really pull back the curtain behind our business, Sweetfish Media, and we talk about some ways that we're learning and growing as we're growing the business. And we've been trying, just right before we hit record, we were trying to figure out what do we want to call these things, because they used to be solo episodes. And then Logan, you joined the team, so they're clearly not solo episodes anymore. I still might do some solo episodes, but these conversations that you and I are having, I think are, based on the feedback I've been getting, are really helpful for listeners. And so I want to continue to do them. So we're going to try to brand them a little bit. So we're going to start calling them behind the curtain episodes. I don't know if we're going to necessarily put that in the headline or not. We'll probably continue to still just headline these without the number in front of them. And we'll use the number in front of the episodes to indicate that it's an interview. And then if there's no episode number, you know that it's either a solo episode with just me or it's a behind the curtains episode with Logan and I. So just wanted to give a little bit of context there. This topic that we're going to be talking about today, Logan, is LinkedIn video. And taking a little bit different take because I feel like everyone and their mom is telling people, you got to do video, you got to do video, you got to do video. And honestly, man, I just think it's producing a ton of video garbage, if I'm completely honest. I see so many, and I'm not a rant guy. I'm not a fluff, ruffle feathers and be negative, go against.
No, like you are not Mr. Negative. That is for sure, man.
So that's definitely not my, the norm for me, but I've just seen way too many very poorly done LinkedIn selfie videos. And I've even seen people complain about them on LinkedIn. And I don't even really like that, but I think I was waiting to say something about it until I had some legitimate alternatives. And I think that, we've talked through even just leading up to this call. And as I've been thinking about this episode for the last couple of days, I think we've got some pretty solid alternatives instead of just the, typical selfie, selfie video on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're going to title this one, Alternative to LinkedIn Selfie Videos.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, man, because as we were talking offline, I think we've got to be thinking more critically about video than doing video for the sake of doing video. Like I just think every LinkedIn guru, everyone that's passionate about the platform is just saying, do video, do video, do video. And they're not taking into account like the fact that quality does matter. Like if you're not putting captions on your video, that is going to drastically decrease the amount of people that consume it. If you do a video that is more than a minute, it is going to have a drastic impact on people that consume it. If you do not do like high quality video, it's going to have an impact on who consumes it. And so, what are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head that people are doing video for video's sake. And I think that it's in some ways comes out of really good intentions. I mean, Gary Vee talks about the folks at Drift are talking about, document instead of creating content. And so people think, well, if I turn on the camera, I'm really documenting. I'm showing my human side. And I've got a photojournalism background before I got into sales. I love video. I'm passionate about good use of photography and video and visual assets, but people have to think a little bit more critically about what's getting more engagement. There's a couple things here. There's not all of us are Gary Vee. Not all of us have the charisma and the personality and the hard hitting things to say every day that we can just turn on the camera and it's going to be engaging.
Mhm.
So we can kind of water down our brand by always flipping on the camera and just saying something. I mean, I think that's true whether it's video or text. If you're producing too much content that's fluff, you'll be top of mind, but you'll be top of mind and associated with not good content. So
Yeah.
thinking about how you document a little bit, not saying don't be genuine, but be a little bit more thoughtful in it. And the other thing as well that I've noticed is that I could put out a post that has video or a post that's very, very similar that's text only. And LinkedIn's algorithm is actually favoring the text based post, or
Yeah.
people are just engaging with it. I'm not sure, but it gets more reach. So that's another one of those things, along with, are you doing captions? Are you paying attention to people's attention span and not going longer than a minute? And are you really kind of tracking what's getting the most engagement so that you can spend your time doing the things that are producing results? And like you said, not just putting your arms around a medium and fully embracing it if it's not really what's getting you the results. You don't want to do
Yeah.
any medium, video, podcasting, text, whatever, without thinking through why am I doing this medium and what works on this medium.
Yeah, totally. And I think also being conscious of, because and this happens with anything, like I've seen people pop up trying to do the vlog thing where they have
Mhm.
someone on their team follow them around, similar to what Gary Vee is doing. And I actually watched one of these vlogs the other day, and it's someone that I respect. It's someone that I think could execute it really well. And I watched the first 30 seconds of their first vlog, and it was just like, this is not. I'm not going to keep watching this. Like, there's
Mhm.
no part of this that is engaging me, and I'm not going to spend the next 9 minutes watching this. And that was a highly produced. They'd clearly paid someone to. It wasn't just a talking head in front of a backdrop. Like this, the camera guy was like following this person around, and
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, like I think video, and again, it goes back to why I'm so passionate about audio. This piece of content that you and I are creating right now is super low tech. I mean, we're on Uber conference right now,
Mhm.
recording this conversation. And I
Right.
think there is enormous amount of value in this conversation that you and I are having. People
Mhm.
are driving to work right now. They're at the gym. They're doing dishes. They're mowing the lawn, and they
Walking the
can listen
dog,
to this
all those things.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah,
walking
where
the
they
dog.
can't watch a video or read a blog, right?
And
In all
and
those
and so
scenarios.
so they're listening to the conversation you and I are having right now, and it is likely, I would imagine, adding enormous value to them, getting them to think differently about video, and not just doing these selfie videos because it's the easiest thing, because that's how audio works, that the medium works without it needing to be this gimlet style highly produced podcast. But video is different. Like,
Mhm.
if you're going to do the selfie style videos, you've got to keep it extremely tight, preferably under a minute. Like you said, you've got to be doing captions. You have to have something compelling to say, and you have to be able to say that in a way that is concise.
Mhm.
Unless you have the personality of like a Keenan or a
Mhm.
Gary Vee, they're just very, Gaetano Donardi, the VP of marketing at Sales Hacker, had a really incredible post on this on LinkedIn yesterday,
Mhm.
just talking about how, like, you are not Gary Vee. Like, just because Gary can do video well, and just because maybe guys like Dale Dupree or Keenan can do video exceptionally well, does not mean that you can do it well. And that's a harsh truth, but like, even myself, like when I'm self-aware with myself, I
Mhm.
know that I don't do that well on video. I've
Mhm.
gravitated to audio. I've
Yeah.
tried doing video, but the video that we've done has been, Gary V Wannabe, which got insanely good results on LinkedIn. I mean, we got like 80,000 views. It drove an enormous amount of inbound leads for us because we were funny. And I'm not funny, but we're fortunate to have, Jonathan on our team who is extremely funny and can write a hilarious script
Right.
and can pull off the production. And we've got people that can do video editing and cinematography. And because of that, we put out a highly quality video that was hilarious and it did extremely well. I think another opportunity for video that could do well is something that's inspiring or emotional. But again, it has to be high quality content. It's not something you're going to be able to do necessarily from your iPhone and iMovie unless you yourself are very versed in cinematography and camera angles and how to tell a story. I think good storytelling matters.
Yeah.
But I think if you funny or inspiring or
Yeah.
some level of like drawing out emotion
Yeah.
of someone,
Yeah.
then that type of video is the type of video that is proven to work in the B2C side and in the B2B side.
Right.
But it takes work, like just like anything else. Like the amount of effort you put into something is directly correlated to the results that you are going to see from it. And
Right.
so when you think,
Exactly.
how easy is it for you to just pop up your camera sitting at your desk and rant for 5 minutes about the thing you're talking about? Well, yeah, that's easy, but you're also not going to see great results with it. And so
Yeah. It's
if
like,
that's your style, do a podcast, do a little 5-minute podcast where you do 5-minute rants. Like it's going to be received better. And
yeah.
then figure out another strategy for getting reach on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple things really well there, James. Like, as you're talking about this harsh truth, like we're not trying to say that, hey, you're not Gary Vee, so don't do video. We're trying to say, think about your strengths.
Yeah.
You are a phenomenal writer. You have this way of writing the way that you talk, and it gets engagement. Like, our email list responds, people on our email list respond all the time saying, I feel like you're talking directly to me. So what have you done? You've done a couple videos on LinkedIn, but primarily they've been text only status updates. And obviously you're also good in the audio format and you feel more comfortable there. Like you've also recognized that, hey, I'm not that comfortable in front of the camera. So if I'm not feeling comfortable, then it's not going to make for great content. Right. So it's not putting anyone down. It's saying recognize your strengths, play to those. And then once you realize which medium suits your strengths the best, think about the way that you communicate on that medium. Joe Chernov and Dave Gerhardt were talking about this on Coffee with the CMO, not just atomizing content and saying, okay, well, here's a Twitter version, here's a podcast version, here's a blog version. You have to actually change the approach depending on the medium, not just make it shorter or longer, right?
Yeah.
Because different formats lend themselves to communicating in different ways. And video, you're very, very right, is a way to connect emotionally. So if you're not leveraging that piece of it, then why do video?
Yeah.
A good example of folks doing this with more highly produced and not as highly produced. I've seen stuff kind of along the spectrum from the folks at Lead IQ and Ryan O'Hara.
Yeah.
They've really focused on, like you're talking about, funny videos, and they don't always fit the same format, but they're focusing on storytelling and drawing out that laughter and that human emotion. So I think that's a good example of an alternative people could kind of
Yeah.
see and see if it fits for them.
And I don't think they're spending a whole lot of money on those. So they're not
Mhm.
necessarily going all in on like, production quality and having
Mhm.
fancy, lighting and cinematography and all that stuff. But they are, both Jeremy, I think it's
Mhm.
Jeremy and Ryan,
Yeah.
if I'm remembering right, they're both funny people. Now you're not always going to have somebody funny on your team that is willing to do video, but work with what you have and just think critically about what actually gets good engagement on video. I think of
Mhm.
one YouTube channel that I've started listening to this year is called Charisma on Command. And for the most part, these are talking head videos. And they're like 7 or 8 minute videos. And I'm like, why am I so engaged with those? So I went back and I started looking at more of them to kind of dissect what are they doing from a production standpoint to keep me engaged in this content? One, the content's just really interesting. They're looking at like, what does Ellen do that makes her so magnetic? Or why is it that The Rock was so lame, in the 90s, and now he's one of the most charismatic humans in the world? What made that shift? What are things in his behavior? So it's fascinating, and it's different content like that I don't see a lot of other people talking about. So that's one element. But then they also do B-roll. So like, it's not just a talking head. There's actually an enormous amount of B-roll that they put in those videos that I didn't even necessarily notice at first, but on a second look, in trying to figure out why am I so engaged here, they're constantly showing clips of, like, in the episode about The Rock, they're showing clips of him, being interviewed on Jay Leno.
To hold your attention.
Yeah.
When I did video editing as a photojournalist, I was really like, it kind of shocked me, like how quick you have to edit stuff when you then step back and view it as a viewer and realize like how many different clips it takes to like keep our attention. Right.
Yeah. You're spot on, man. And so all that to say, there are alternatives to the LinkedIn selfie video. We've talked about two specifically: be funny, or be inspiring. I think there's the option of going super high quality, like we did with Gary V Wannabe, that two-part series that we did, that we'll likely start picking up and doing more of. Not necessarily doing super high quality, but being funny, like what Ryan O'Hara at Lead IQ is doing. I actually really like the Coffee with the CMO videos. They're kind of vlog style, not really though. It's a more like, it's just a higher produced version of an interview. But I really like what Dave Gearhart and his team are doing over at Drift, with starting to do with video. So there are a couple other options for you to look at to see, Alan Gannett, we haven't met. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned him earlier, but he's doing these 60-second videos where he interviews someone, but he keeps it super short, 60 seconds. He's got captions on the videos. It's interesting content. And because of that, his video content has exploded. So these are just some alternatives for people that will hopefully fuel some creativity and get people thinking, what's a content angle that we can come at this from? You don't necessarily always have to be different, but man, being different helps a ton, be it in the level of production quality and the type of content you're creating and what your actual message is. Like, having a point of view matters. If you are not saying something, the unique perspective and a unique point of view, then you're just going to sound like all the other noise that's on the internet right now. So hope this has been helpful. Logan, do you have any kind of parting words before we let folks go today?
Oh, I was just going to say that, you kind of brought it back to our first point of talking about, documenting over creating. Think about documenting what's unique, documenting your unique point of view. If you're just documenting the things that you're doing that are the same as everyone else, then it's not really useful documenting. Right. So I just picked that up in the last things that you were saying and kind of how it came full circle. So I think we've got some great examples to point people to so that this doesn't just become a rant that we don't like LinkedIn selfie videos. So hopefully it was helpful. And I think it's been a good chat, man.
Love it. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Logan. This has been awesome. And for those listening, if you are not connected with Logan and myself on LinkedIn, please get connected with us. Logan Lyles, Lyles, James Carberry, Carbary. We'd love to stay connected with you there. We're both really active on the platform and love engaging with folks listening to this. So connect with us. Let us know you listen to the show. We love hearing from you guys. So thank you so much. There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.